I'm going to introduce Leo. We were sitting at the table, again, talking a little bit about New Orleans Saints football and lamenting that as we move right along. We're pleased to have with us today Mr. Leo Denault, CEO of Entergy Corporation. Entergy is a platinum sponsor for our event, so thank you very much for that. Mr. Denault became chairman and CEO of Entergy on February 1st of this year, so he's relatively new at that position, but is doing a fantastic job. And as the most senior manager of the company, Leo sets the directions for a variety of businesses units within Entergy. Before being named chairman, he served as executive vice president and chief financial officer since February of 2004, where he was responsible for corporate-wide finance, accounting, investor relations, and information technology. He had just a few things going at that particular time. Under his guidance, the CFO Entergy has delivered its highest operational earnings. Now, we appreciate that in Mississippi. We are a state that doesn't punish the winners, so we absolutely believe you ought to make a profit. Keep costs low to consumers while making a profit is the way every manager wants to have his energy company run. Leo has helped Entergy's financial unit through the tough times that we experienced here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast after Katrina. And I can tell you, the power companies at that time throughout the affected area were there trying to respond immediately. As soon as the first responders were on the site, so were those that were representing the power companies, trying to every home that could take power, get power restored. And even in Rankin County, as we sat there for about 4 days, a minimum compared to anything that happened here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. But even after 4 days, there's that particular great moment, Leo, when you hear that air conditioning unit kick in and the lights come on. I was state auditor at that time, and Entergy trucks were going up and down the street, and one of the gentlemen called and said, "No, I know you're state auditor and you got a lot of responsibility. You're trying to keep things going, and would you like us to try to get your power on now?" I said, "Absolutely not. Can you imagine my lights coming on and everyone else on the street not? I think I'd have lost my own neighborhood." "Don't worry," I told him, "I'll get to work. We'll get things going as state auditor. You just make sure everybody here gets their power as soon as possible," and they did. So, like many of you in this room, as I said, we rely on Entergy Company each day. When we wake up in the morning, we go throughout our work day and into the evening. So they have become a strong partner to the state of Mississippi. I remember back in the old days of MP&L, when it seemed, community depended on Mississippi Power to support them in their economic development ways and in their civic opportunities. Almost everyone that was in the Rotary Club or the JCs depended on Mississippi Power, now Entergy, to help them move in their civic responsibilities. So they've been a strong partner to us in Mississippi and throughout the Gulf South. So please welcome with me and joining with a round of applause, if you will, the CEO of Entergy, Mr. Leo Denault. Leo?
Well, thank you, Governor, for that kind introduction and for reminding me why I went to bed last night upset. I have a fantasy football league that I play with my family, and my wife has Tom Brady as her quarterback. And I kept informing her all last night, they don't have to win for you to get points. But somehow she started to jump out of her chair when they scored that last touchdown. And somehow I had to sleep in the living room because of that. We at Entergy appreciate, Governor, your leadership here in Mississippi and the advancement not only of Mississippi but the region. And I also want to thank the board for allowing me to speak here today. I consider it an honor to be offered the chance to address the South's top political leaders and business leaders, men and women who are helping to shape the future of this region. It's an awesome responsibility, and I, for one, applaud your willingness to take on that job. It requires determination, strength, and above all, vision of what your community, of what your region could be. And as you would expect in a room full of leaders, I know there are probably just as many ideas about what the future of the South, of your communities, should hold as there are people here today. But no matter what differences there may be among us, whether you're in business or in the public sector, whether you're a Southerner by birth or like me by choice, whether you're a card-carrying member of the Tea Party or a Yellow Dog Democrat, I would bet each of us imagines the future of our communities where good-paying jobs are there for the taking, where workers and their families are attracted to the region by the quality of our public school systems, where graduation rates are among the highest in the nation, where our colleges and universities are known as much for their research facilities as their football stadiums, and our social service agencies are wanting for clients. Some of you might be saying that's a nice dream, and now let's talk about the real world. But the energy revolution, being driven at least in part by the abundance of natural gas, gives us all a window of opportunity to shape our future, to make real, lasting improvements in our social and physical infrastructure, and to build the foundation for true economic sustainability across the region. Let's be clear, this window of opportunity will not last forever. As long as as many of you in the energy industry know, most of what's going on in the investment we have today is due to the difference in worldwide prices of oil and natural gas. That's not going to last forever. Commodity markets just don't work that way. As I thought about my comments here today, I thought about the role Entergy plays. And we're in somewhat of a unique position in that we really play three roles on this team, and I really mean that in terms of a team. I use that word deliberately because that's what I believe each and every one of us in this room here today is, a team. First, we're a business that provides a product, electricity. That is essential to every single other business's product and service. It's simple. Our product must be competitively priced and reliable so other businesses in the region can grow and prosper, and so that we attract new industry to the region. Second, we're also a major corporation that is integral to the communities that we serve. Helping address social issues that manifest themselves in communities, cities, and region is simply something we must do. And third, we're a large part of the energy industry. In the region, we're a business that employs thousands of workers who themselves are part of these communities. We must take part in this revolution in a profitable way if we are to survive as a business. And all three things are linked. If we, and this is a broad we, I think it includes all of us, if we don't get one right, then we get none of them right. All of them need our collective focus, our collective efforts, and our collective commitment to strive for what is possible so that we do in fact achieve that vision I outlined a few minutes ago. So let's start first with the opportunity of near-term economic development. Right now we have an advantage of a relatively cheap natural resource, our extensive energy infrastructure and low-cost electricity, and a combination that's attracted billions of dollars of investments and thousands of jobs to our region. In Entergy's 4-state service territory alone, we've seen significant waves of new industrial economic development in the recent years. Announced or recently completed projects total more than $65 billion in investment. Together, it's estimated that these investments have the potential to create close to 30,000 jobs, with about 8,000 of those jobs being direct. Louisiana continues to attract significant investment across a range of industries. Right here in Mississippi, the state has a number of major projects that add to the overall region's economic diversity. For example, the Nissan plant in Canton last year announced an expansion in production, creating 1,000 jobs. Drax Biomass International is building a plant in Gloucester that next year will start producing wood pellets to be exported to Great Britain to produce energy. And just a few weeks ago, Fewer Powertrain, a manufacturer of crankshafts, announced it was investing $140 million to build its first U.S. manufacturing plant in Tunica. It expects to create 300 jobs. And in Arkansas earlier this year, Big River Steel announced that it plans to invest $1 billion in a new steel mill that will employ 525 people. Obviously, not all of these projects will become reality. But even with the qualifiers of potential, or possible, or proposed, these are astounding numbers. Numbers that should serve as motivation for all of us here today to meet our shared challenges head on. and seize what I believe will be even more tremendous opportunities ahead of us for this region. And we don't have time to waste. As I said, someday in the not too distant future, the oil gas price differential will change and capital will flow elsewhere. So we have to make the most of it now before that window closes. It's imperative that we focus on the fundamentals needed to allow this region to thrive today and be ready to capitalize on the next cycle of economic expansion. That means our states, which are among the best in the nation in this area, must continue policies that encourage investment from a wide range of businesses. But the unfortunate truth is this region's future will be limited and our economic potential never fully realized as long as poverty remains so pervasive. And this is the social challenge and opportunity I mentioned earlier. At Entergy, we estimate as many as 25% of our customer base requires government support just to make ends meet. It's also time to address another long-standing issue that's intertwined with poverty, and that's education. It is without question the major driver of economic sustainability, one that's critical to strengthening our communities. So we must use this time of economic growth to substantially increase investment in our public schools, to ensure all children have high-quality pre-K education programs, and pay teachers a wage that will help keep top college graduates in the classroom. And wouldn't it be a shame if the thousands of jobs being created by the projects I mentioned can't be filled by our residents because they don't have the right skill sets? That's why we also need to ramp up investments in efficient, effective, and flexible workforce training programs. I'm glad to say that many of the states represented here today are doing a fantastic job in this arena. But we can't afford to be complacent. Our programs must be ready to meet the needs of businesses today and have the ability to adjust to emerging trends so we can take advantage of whatever the opportunities are that come next. These are all investments that need to be made now. If we come out of this economic cycle and the poverty rate hasn't changed, if all children don't have access to quality pre-K programs, if we haven't continued improving our graduation rates, if we haven't prepared our workers for 21st century jobs, then we will have wasted this great opportunity. I want to make clear that this responsibility doesn't rest solely on the back of government. We, and that's a broad we again, must all share the burden, and that includes Entergy and the rest of the businesses represented here today. I'm proud to say that Entergy has been working for years with our nonprofit partners to strengthen the communities we serve. Our company and its charitable foundation have invested more than $150 million over the last 10 years to support programs that range from literacy campaigns to environmental initiatives to workforce development efforts. More than $60 million of that investment has been through our Low Income Initiative, a program that started about 14 years ago with the relatively simple goal of allowing our low-income customers to pay their electric bills. Thanks to our employees' commitments, it's evolved into a successful advocacy effort to fight poverty. It is so effective, other companies have looked to it as a model. The initiative attacks poverty on many fronts, including working to increase the flow of funds for utility assistance programs to help low-income and vulnerable households pay their energy bills. For the most part, this involves working with our congressional delegations to secure adequate funding for low-income home energy assistance program, as well as other federal programs that weatherize homes for those under the poverty level. We also work with governors and legislatures to institute and fund programs like public benefit funds to supplement what the federal government cannot supply. But I believe the initiative's most significant work is helping customers achieve economic self-sufficiency. To that end, we focus on investing in education, promoting one of the nation's most effective tools for lifting low-income families out of poverty, the Earned Income Tax Credit. For the past decade, Entergy has partnered with the IRS, local United Ways, and others to help working families file for refunds they have earned. Between 2009 and 2013, Entergy and our partners helped return more than $60 million in EITC refunds to tens of thousands of customers. As for education, over the last decade, Entergy has invested more than $43 million to improve our community's schools. That figure includes almost $2.5 million that we've invested in the Teach for American program since Katrina, helping inject the fresh ideas and energy of almost 1,000 of our nation's best and brightest college graduates in schools across Louisiana, Mississippi, and Arkansas. In Southeast Louisiana alone, we are touching the lives of some 40,000 children who are in Teach for America-led classrooms. We've also been an aggressive advocate for properly funding high-quality early childhood education programs. Research shows that every dollar spent on early childhood education returns $9 in societal benefits. We've worked with partners across Arkansas, Louisiana, and Mississippi to increase state funding for pre-K programs by $185 million. Entergy's own Haley Fasackerly has been among the business leaders at the forefront of that issue here in Mississippi. And you can be sure that Haley and his team will continue pushing to expand funding so every child in Mississippi has access to a high-quality early education program. All of those efforts strengthen our social infrastructure. Entergy is also addressing the physical and environmental threats to our region. We're working with communities across the Gulf Coast to raise awareness of the need to invest in measures to adapt to the changing environment. 3 years ago, we commissioned the study Building a Resilient Energy Gulf Coast, a first-of-its-kind comprehensive analysis of risks and adaptation measures. It estimates rising sea levels and extreme weather will cost the Gulf Coast as much as $350 billion in cumulative asset losses by the year 2030. The study lays out a roadmap for policymakers on the most cost-effective steps we can take to make our infrastructure more resilient to extreme weather. Results of an extensive public outreach effort were delivered to Washington in 2012 with the message that failure to take action to protect the Gulf Coast, this region of the country, and its energy infrastructure would cause economic harm to the nation. One person who attended a community meeting held here in Biloxi hit the nail on the head with the comment that you can't have economic sustainability without environmental and cultural sustainability. They just go hand in hand. Even with all those initiatives, Entergy's primary focus remains our core responsibility, providing reliable power at a reasonable cost. Meeting that responsibility is going to grow increasingly difficult for the utility industry as a whole in the years ahead. Utilities are at the start of a major investment cycle that will require between $1.5 and $2 trillion of investment through 2030. Much of it driven by the need to upgrade aging infrastructure, meet new and evolving environmental requirements, and other compliance requirements. At the same time, the industry is grappling with the rise of transformative technologies: solar, wind, demand-side management, energy efficiency, microturbines, and battery storage. Entergy is not immune to these trends. Our capital expenditures have increased, hitting the highest level in more than a decade in 2012. And we're already starting to see the effect of energy efficiency actions in our sales to customers, with programs in Arkansas, Texas, and New Orleans underway, and one soon to start in the rest of Louisiana, as well as right here in Mississippi. These energy efficiency programs are really the first stage of a major shift in our relationship with customers and their changing expectations. Technology has forever altered our interactions with customers. Today, customers want what they want, when they want it, and as you might guess, they want it right now. And in increasing numbers, what they want is control over their energy needs. Depending on the person, that might mean maintaining or managing their energy use on the smartphone app, to putting in microturbines or generation or self-generation, distributed generation on the other side of the meter. The point of all this is that as a utility business, we need to adapt to remain profitable. And as service providers, we need to manage costs to help support the region's quest for growth, stability, and advancement. If we truly are, as our vision at Entergy suggests, here to power life for our owners, customers, and the communities we serve, we must adapt in ways our industry has yet to embrace, maintaining a low cost structure so our prices can be competitive while striving for profitability that allows us to continue to contribute to our community through our job creation and our philanthropy. If we don't find the right combination of strategies and innovative regulatory policies, utilities will be facing a vicious downward cycle with serious economic repercussions. Rising costs and competition from new technologies erode demand. That inevitably leads to higher prices, which leads to further erosion of demand, pushing more and more of the cost onto a shrinking customer base. That's not a recipe for long-term company success, And it's even more detrimental to the success of the region's economy if utilities are either unprofitable or high cost. But it is the worst case when the major infrastructure provider, your local utility, is both unprofitable and high cost. If we are successful in helping to draw in the economic development projects I outlined earlier, we can keep customer rates low by allowing us to spread those growing costs over a larger base. And the same low natural gas prices driving that growth is helping to keep our costs down, which in turn should help us to attract load to our region. That is for now. Let's call that Entergy's window of opportunity. And it's the third role that I mentioned. It gives us the chance to thoroughly examine our own organization and practices to make sure we are prepared for this transformational change and what lies ahead. We're executing on key strategic imperatives to control our costs, increase our efficiencies, and prepare to capitalize on the opportunities ahead. They include executing on our move to the Mid-Continent Independent System Operator and our spin merge transaction with ITC Holdings, growing our utility business, and developing and implementing effective and efficient regulatory constructs, just to name a few. Now, I realize that every business faces major change. The difference is when there is transformative change in the utility business, it touches everyone. Standing as we do at the intersection of the public and the private, I believe utilities like Entergy can serve as a catalyst for change. Change that's needed to build strong and economically sustainable communities. So where does all of this leave us? Better yet, where does all of this direct us? As I mentioned, our region, in fact our country, has a tremendous opportunity staring us in the face. In addition to the near-term opportunity to create economic growth and the medium-term need and opportunity to create sustainability through improvements in education, adaptation of our region's infrastructure, and a plan to turn near-term prosperity into a longer-term regional economic powerhouse. Let's add national energy independence to the list. It's time to open our minds to what's possible, to focus all of our efforts on not only capturing the opportunity immediately before us, but leveraging it so that when this version of the commodity cycle ends, and they always end, we are the ones ready to capture the next great opportunities. But it's also time to open our hearts, because without the hearts and minds of any organization, whether it be a company or a community, true success is never achieved, certainly not over the longer term. We are in the midst of a once-in-a-generation opportunity. Let's all commit to focusing on how to use it to the advantage of our region, to become a region that others turn to, that others learn from, and that others envy for decades to come. Thank you, and all of us at Entergy look forward to working with each of you as we move this region into a very bright future. Thank you.